Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Podcast. Last night I did my NCAA tournament picks and I explained why I removed the word blog from the show. And I'll just say it again because the NCAA tournament podcast did not upload to YouTube yet. I removed the word blog because it didn't make much sense. But when I started to record my podcast to YouTube, I kept the word blog in there because of my Google blog called the Ultimate Sports Blog that I frequently use to type up predictions for big events such as the NCAA tournament, the NBA and NHL playoffs round by round, picks for every college football and NFL game, mock drafts for each of the major sports drafts, and a lot more. And as I mentioned, this podcast is going to be the same format where I recap all the games. I do an activity, whether it's a mock draft or a redraft or rankings or whatever, and my best bet where I do a gambling play, and whether it's a parlay of moneyline favorites or an underdog moneyline play of the day. And there's going to be a new twist on the podcast where I'll feature guests a few times a week. I'm very looking forward to that and to see how it plays out. Without further ado, I want to hit on the biggest story in sports right now. That is Mike Trout gets a mega extension from the Los Angeles Angels, 12 years, $430 million. That is a huge win for the Los Angeles Angels franchise. That is also a huge win for Mike Trout because he becomes the highest paid player in baseball. He has the biggest contract in sports history. Mike Trout deserves it. He's the best player in the game. It might not even be close. He's sensational. The Angels are under a little bit less pressure now, in my opinion, that they signed him long term. And their farm system has to be better. Maybe if it does eventually get better, they can make a trade for another above average player to pair with Trout potentially down the road. There's a lot of ramifications. Another ramification heads to the teams in the American League West because they have to see Trout for years to come. And so whoever pitches in the AL West, they're losers. And speaking of AL West teams, the Astros have young players that are due for extensions coming up. I wonder what it means to them and how the Astros negotiate with those players going forward. And I'm talking about Correa, Bregman, and Springer. Altuve's already signed long-term, so I think he'll be okay for a while. And another big one is what does this mean for Mookie Betts and the Red Sox? Because I know the Red Sox want to extend Mookie Betts. They think he is a close second to Mike Trout. And I know they want to keep him long-term. And I wonder if Mookie wants more money or he'll take a little less than Trout, but I know he'll have more in his pocket than Harper with his next contract, but I don't know if he'll beat Trout's contract. Maybe he will because the Red Sox have more money than the Angels, and I think the Red Sox are dying to keep this guy around because he's a franchise player like Trout, and they want to build around Betts. And another ramification of this is the Phillies, who the perception is that Mike Trout was going to end up there when he became a free agent to pair up with Bryce Harper. That's no longer the case. Bryce Harper recruited Mike Trout to Philadelphia. That failed as Trout signs this mega extension. And I think that another ramification of this is how players want to avoid free agency. And that is because it took so long for Harper and Machado to get paid, even though they did get paid. It took a long time. Like, we just saw Nolan Arenado agree to a big extension. Aaron Hicks. I think there's going to be more to come with players agreeing to extensions before free agency. And I wonder if Jacob deGrom is next among those that are going to be a free agent within the next few years that will jump the gun early and get paid early like Arenado and like Hicks. So that's something to watch. And Like I said, great deal for the Angels. They keep their franchise player for the rest of his life as a baseball player, and they don't have to worry about him leaving someday. I'm going to go to the NBA now. I'm just going to go over the scores from last night and provide takeaways from each and every game. There's some notable results. And then tonight's games, there's some notable players injured. We'll get to that too. Raptors over the Knicks 128-92. Toronto on the season is now 50-21. New York drops to 14-57. Kyle Lowry got injured in this game. That was the big story from a Raptors perspective. Cavaliers over the Pistons 126-119. Cleveland is 18-53. Detroit's 36-34. Bad loss for the Pistons. You can't be losing to the lowly Cavaliers if you want to sneak in the Eastern playoffs. So that's a bad loss. I do think the Pistons will ultimately get in, but that's a bad loss. Jazz over the Wizards 116-95. Good taking care of business win for Utah. 41-29 on the year, and Washington's 30-41. So Washington will not finish with a winning record. Nuggets over the Celtics 114-105 in Boston. A nice win for Denver. They clinch a playoff spot. 47-22 on the year. Boston 43-28. Heat over the Thunder 116-107 as Russell Westbrook's suspension proves to be costly. Miami's 34-36. OKC's 42-29. Spurs over the Warriors 111-105. A huge win for San Antonio. That's 9 in a row, 11 in a row at home. 42-29 the year. They're going to make the playoffs. So Greg Popovich has to be proud of how this season's gone. Because, listen, I was down on San Antonio before the season. I predicted that LaMarcus Aldridge was going to get traded and Popovich would retire. Because I thought this was going to be a borderline disaster. Because DeJounte Murray got hurt and they lost Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green. And I just didn't and wasn't sure how their season was going to go. But DeRozan's been great. Aldridge has been great. Popovich, I think, deserves to be in consideration for the coach of the year. And then Golden State falls to 47-22. Pelicans over the Mavericks 129-125 in overtime. New Orleans is 31-42. Dallas is 28-42. Dallas looks like they're tanking. And the Pelicans just win a game that affects their spot in the lottery. Bulls over the Suns 116-101. Again, Chicago wins to hurt their spot in the lottery. They're 20-52. Phoenix is 17-55. So Phoenix has 17 wins and New York has 14. So the Knicks can afford maybe a win or two. That Laker win won't hurt them because, I think they wanted to beat the Lakers and LeBron. Fizdale wanted to beat the Lakers and LeBron. I think Fizdale was not wanting the Laker job per se, but I remember there was talk that Luke Walton was going to get fired last year and they'd bring in Fizdale because LeBron liked Fizdale. I remember all those rumors were going around. But I think Fizdale's happy in New York. And I just think that he wants to beat the Lakers. So, that's okay if you're the Knicks. You can afford a few wins down the stretch because the Suns and the Bulls and the Cavaliers have been winning random games left and right as well. And the Bulls have been playing a little better. They're at the 20-win mark. I don't know if many people thought they'd win 20 games this year. And obviously the team that's overachieved in the East, that's obviously a bad team, has been Atlanta. Nobody thought that they would be in the 20s. A lot of people had them in the teens. People thought that they were going to be really, really bad. And then the Trailblazers defeat the Pacers 106-98. Indiana got off to a good start in this game, but they faltered. Portland's 43-27. Indiana's 44-27. So Indiana 27 losses. Boston 28 losses. So there's still a chance that Boston jumps Indiana for the 4 seed. So stay tuned for that. Let's go look at tonight's games. At 7 o'clock, you have the 76ers at the Hornets. 7:30, the Rockets at the Hawks. 8 o'clock NBA TV, the Lakers at the Bucks. No LeBron James and no Giannis Antetokounmpo. LeBron's out because of load management, and Giannis is out due to an ankle injury. I wonder if these injuries that the Bucks keep sitting Giannis out for is going to ultimately cost him the MVP award. Because to me, you shouldn't be missing that many games for winning and then win MVP. That's why I was somewhat against Harden winning it last year, because he was out for a few weeks at one point last season in the beginning of the year. And Harden really hasn't missed much time this year. It was Chris Paul that missed a lot of time, and Clint Capella, and he's carried that team, and that could be a top 4 seed in the West, because it's a close race in the West. I'll get to it in a minute. So yeah, no LeBron, no Giannis tonight, and that's on NBA TV. Warriors, Timberwolves, 10 o'clock Nets, Kings, and 10:30 the Pacers at the Clippers. Pacers-Clippers is a good game. 2 playoff teams, one from the East, one from the West. Clippers have been playing great. And I want to go through the standings real quick in the NBA. Clinched. Milwaukee, Toronto, Philly. And those are your top 3 seeds in order. Indiana's your 4 seed. Boston's your 5 seed. They are 1 game apart. Detroit's your 6. Brooklyn's your 7. Miami's your 8. Orlando's a game and a half back of Miami. Charlotte is 2.5 back of Miami. I think they're done. And in Washington, Atlanta has 24 wins. I was wondering how many wins Atlanta had. I think I penciled them in for 18 before the season, and that has obviously been exceeded. And then eliminated Chicago, Cleveland, and New York, who are all tanking. So the 4-5 spots are up for grabs between Indy and Boston, and then Detroit, Brooklyn, Miami are all separated each by a game. So those spots are up for grabs. Orlando is a game and a half back. I don't think they'll make it. They're 2 back in the loss column of Miami. So to me, it matters with the order of Detroit, Brooklyn, Miami to see which of those teams face Milwaukee, Toronto, and Philly. Right now, it would be Milwaukee, Miami. So that would be Giannis versus a franchise that I think is in a bit of mediocrity after being a contender for a couple years with LeBron James. That's a team that has to rebuild, I think, in the Heat. But I think they're in there because of a weak Eastern Conference and a variety of other things. Charlotte's underachieved. Washington's badly underachieved. The Knicks traded Kristaps Porzingis. So, I mean, Miami probably would still be in if a lot of those things don't happen. But they're 34-36, and that sub 500. And in Miami ends up getting rid of Tyler Johnson and Wayne Ellington at the trade deadline too. Brooklyn 36-36 is your 7th seed. They'll be playing Toronto, so a good divisional matchup there. These 2 teams played a great game in Toronto a few weeks ago, where Kawhi Leonard hit the game winner. So that would be a fun series. And then Philly, Detroit. Detroit's been very good lately since the trade deadline. They picked up Wayne Ellington, even though they got rid of Reggie Bullock. But that team's been pretty good. And Andre Drummond has been solid. Blake Griffin has been their best player this year. So it'd be interesting to see Embiid versus Drummond in the first round, although I think Philly's superiorly better. And in Indiana, Boston, without Victor Oladipo, I think Boston would be significant favorites in that series. In the West, clinched, you have Golden State and Denver. And that's your 1 and 2 seeds, respectively. Golden State has the tiebreaker because they have those wins over Denver. They blew them out in Denver. And then on national TV, they blew out Denver at home. And then Houston's the 3 seed. Portland's 4. Those 2 teams are a game apart. San Antonio and Oklahoma City are tied for 5th. Utah is 7. They're a half game back of OKC and San Antonio. And the Clippers are 8. And they are a game back of San Antonio and Oklahoma City and a half game back of Utah. So 1 and 2 can flip-flop, I think, because what if Golden State decides to rest some people? Boogie sat last night. Iguodala sat last night. Durant came back, but didn't help them. They lost to San Antonio. And then Houston and Portland can flip. What if Houston decides to sit Chris Paul for a game and Portland ends up winning a game that they aren't favored to win? Let's say they win a game at Golden State down the stretch if they play there. If Golden State's sitting people, so you never know. That can flip. San Antonio's 5, Oklahoma City 6 right now. San Antonio has that tiebreaker because they won that triple overtime classic of a game on TNT a few months back over Oklahoma City. And if Oklahoma City drops to the 8 spot, they're going to point at that Paul George injury from a few weeks back and Russell Westbrook's suspension from last night and say if those things didn't happen, we'd be a higher seed. So that's flooring that they're a 6 seed. Utah's 7. They've been playing great basketball of late. And then the Clippers are 8, who also been playing great basketball. And then Sacramento, Minnesota, Lakers, not eliminated yet, but they're soon to be eliminated. Sacramento 6 back of the Clippers. Minnesota is 8.5 back. And the Lakers are 9.5 back. And then eliminated New Orleans, Memphis, Dallas, and Phoenix. Let's go to the NHL. Only 4 games last night. The Lightning defeated the Coyotes 4-1. Clinched the President's Trophy already. 56-13-4. Arizona's 36-31-6. Tampa's the Golden State Warriors of hockey, except they haven't won a championship. The Canucks over the Blackhawks 3-2 in overtime. Bad loss for the Blackhawks at home. Their playoff chances, I think, are dead. They're 32-30-10. Vancouver improves to 31-32-10. Jets over the Kings 3-2. A good win for Winnipeg on the road. 43-25-4. LA 25-39-8. And Golden Knights over the Sharks 7-3. A great win on the road for Vegas. 41-27-5 on the year. San Jose's 43-22-8. San Jose's had some weird home losses this year. And I mean, so is Vegas, but these two teams are very similar from a standpoint of you never know what you're going to get night by night. Erik Karlsson might be out until the playoffs for San Jose, so keep an eye on that. Tonight's slate, 7 o'clock, the Red Wings at the Rangers, the Bruins at the Islanders, the Canadiens at the Flyers, the Penguins at the Hurricanes, 7:30 NBCSN, the Capitals at the Devils. I'm taking the Capitals here on the road. They're the better team. Devils look like a team that's sort of tanking, and the Capitals are a team that wants to win the Metro Division. So, if you want to win the Metro Division, you have to win a game like this. And the Islanders are playing the Bruins, and the Bruins are arguably better than the Islanders, and Boston's favored in that game against the Islanders. So, this is a golden opportunity for Washington, assuming the Islanders drop to Boston, to separate themselves from the Islanders a little bit. 8 o'clock, the Oilers at the Blues, the Maple Leafs at the Predators, Avalanche at the Wild, 8:30, the Panthers at the Stars, and 9 o'clock, the Blue Jackets at the Flames. NHL standings. We talked about it before. Tampa Bay's clinched the President's Trophy. They have 116 points. They have the Atlantic Division on lockdown. Boston is 95, Toronto is 91, so it looks like Boston's going to get home ice in that series, in the 3-2 in the Atlantic Division. And in the Metro, the Islanders and the Capitals are tied. I talked about a minute ago how tonight's a golden opportunity for the Capitals because the Islanders have a tougher opponent in Boston. Pittsburgh's in third with 88. So the Metro winner is undecided. Wild card, Carolina is 85. Columbus has 84. Montreal's 3 points back with 81. So if the playoffs were to start today, Montreal's the team that's left out. Montreal has been the biggest overachiever so far of these teams that are on the outside looking in. But out of the playoff teams, the biggest overachievers is the Islanders, and it's not even close. I thought that was the last place team before the year because of the loss of John Tavares. And usually in sports, when you lose a special player of the Tavares magnitude, like we see it this year at the Cavaliers with LeBron James. We've seen it in hockey before. When Zach Parise was in his prime, he was let go by the Devils, and the Devils took years to recover from that. Years. And I thought that the Islanders could have gone through something similar, but no, they have some great young talent on their team. More talent on their team than the Devils did in 2012, 2013. So, Barry Trotz, to me, absolutely deserves the Jack Adams Award for that. And then Philly has 78. They're six back. I think they're done. And then eliminated are the Devils, the Red Wings, and the Senators. Rangers have 69. Buffalo 71. Florida 76. Those teams are still alive, but I think New York's going to be eliminated soon. Western Conference, Winnipeg has 90, Nashville is 87, St. Louis is 82, so Nashville's 3 back of Winnipeg for that division. Looks like Winnipeg's going to win that division. The addition of Kevin Hayes has certainly done the wonders. Pacific Division, Calgary has 95. They clinched a playoff spot. San Jose has 94 points. They're 1 point back of Calgary, so that division still up for grabs. I think Central isn't a lock yet, but I think it's more likely than not that Winnipeg wins that division. Vegas has 87. Your wild cards, Dallas has 80. Arizona has 78. Minnesota's 1 point back with 77. They're still alive. Colorado and Chicago each have 74. I think those two teams are borderline done. I think the cut line by this point of the season is 5. So I guess Colorado and Chicago are still alive. And Philly is not because they're 6 points back in the East. Montreal's still alive because they're 3 back of Columbus. You never know with them. And then eliminated in the West is just the Kings. Anaheim is 69, Edmonton 71, and Vancouver is 72. Next up, I'm going to talk about some spring training results from the past few days and discuss any things that happened in each game. Orioles over the Tigers, 14-1. That's very impressive. Andrew Kashner with the win, Jordan Zimmerman with the loss. Nicholas Castellanos scored the lone run for Detroit with the homer. Jonathan Villar hit a 3-run triple. Trey Mancini tripled. Ryan Mountcastle singled. Kashner, 5 innings, 3 hits, an earned run, and 5 strikeouts. His spring ERA is 6.08. Jordan Zimmerman, 4 1/3 innings, 5 hits, 5 earned runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. His spring ERA is 5.79. Twins over the Red Sox, 4-1. Jose Barrios gets the win. Nathan Eovaldi the loss. The lone run for the Red Sox was an RBI single by J.D. Martinez. And meanwhile for the Twins, Eddie Rosario hit a 2-run home run. Jorge Polanco RBI single, RBI double, Nelson Cruz. Nathan Eovaldi, 4 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. His spring ERA is 3.86. Jose Barrios, 4 2/3 innings, 3 hits, an earned run, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. His spring ERA is 4.05. Marlins over the Nationals, 7-1. Caleb Smith gets the win. Patrick Corbin the loss. Peter O'Brien hit a 2-run double. He might make the team. He also had an RBI single. Austin Dean had an RBI single. Gary Cooper had an RBI single. O'Brien hit a sac fly too. He has had a great spring. Caleb Smith's had a good spring too. 5 innings, 2 hits, an earned run, no walks, 7 strikeouts. His spring ERA is a 1. Patrick Corbin, 5 innings, 9 hits, 4 runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts. His spring ERA is 4.50. Cardinals over the Phillies, 4-1. Dakota Hudson gets the win. Zach Eflin the loss. Tyler O'Neill hit a homer. Paul Goldschmidt hit a 2-run shot. RBI single. Paul DeYoung were things of note for the Cardinals. Hudson, 5 innings, 4 hits, no runs, a walk, and 8 strikeouts. His spring ERA is 1.72. Zach Eflin, 5 innings, 4 hits, an earned run, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. His spring ERA is 2.4. Pirates over the Rays, 4-2. Nick Kingham gets the win. Charlie Morton the loss. Brandon Lowe hit an RBI double for the Rays in this game. Morton's pitch line, 5 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. His spring ERA is 2.45. Kingham from Pittsburgh, 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. His spring ERA is 5.09. Blue Jays over the Tigers, 3-2. Clayton Richard got the win. Daniel Norris got the loss. Bud Norris got the save. Tim Beckham homered. Teoscar Hernandez homered. 2-run RBI single. Dalton Pompey. Norris' pitch line 3 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, a walk, and 2 strikeouts. His spring ERA is 5.06. Clayton Richard, 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. His spring ERA is 3.38. Nationals over the Mets 6-5, so the Nats had a split squad. Eric Feed gets the win. Tanner Peterson gets the loss, and Michael Conforto hit a 2-run shot for the Mets. He's had a good spring. And then Hechavarria hit a sac fly. Spencer Keyboom hit a homer for Washington. Wilmer Difo tripled. Joe Ross, 3 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts. His spring ERA is 2.53. Haraces Familia, the Mets used the opener. He went an inning, no hits, no runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts. His spring ERA is a 3. Padres over the Indians 3-1. The Padres, Robbie Erlin got the win. Trevor Bauer the loss. Will Myers homered. Franmil Reyes doubled. Josh Naylor homered. Jose Ramirez doubled. Robbie Erlin 2 innings, no hits, no runs, a walk, and no strikeouts. His spring ERA is 4.26. Trevor Bauer 5 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, no walks, 9 strikeouts. His spring ERA is 3.24. Yankees over the Braves 7-4 from Disney. Masahiro Tanaka gets the win. Bryce Wilson the loss. Yankee regulars did very well. Luke Voit home run. 2-run triple Aaron Judge. 2-run single Austin Romine. Charlie Culberson hit an RBI single. Nick Markakis homered off of Tanaka. 2-run single Dansby Swanson. Tanaka 5 innings, 2 hits, an earned run, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. His spring ERA is a 3. Starting for the Rays was Wes Parsons. 2 innings, no hits, no runs, no walks, and 3 strikeouts. And Bryce Wilson, 4 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. His spring ERA is 3.29. Giants over the White Sox 5-2. Ty Block got the win. Yonder Alonso hit a 2-run homer for the White Sox. Those were the 2 lone runs for the White Sox in this one. Again, Herbert Slarte got an infield single. Tyler Beede, 2 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. His ERA for the spring is 6.1. Manny Banuelos, 4 1/3 innings, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, no walks, no strikeouts. His spring ERA is 4.26. Rockies over the Reds 6-3. Kyle Freeland got the win. Tyler Mahle the loss. Scott Schebler homered for Cincinnati. Ryan McMahon homered for Colorado. RBI double Ian Desmond. RBI double Ryan McMahon. Sacrifice fly Charlie Blackmon. Trevor Story homered. Pat Valaika hit an RBI single. Jose Iglesias had an RBI ground out and an infield single. Tyler Mahle, 4 innings, 7 hits, 4 earned runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts. His spring ERA is 5.14. Kyle Freeland, 4 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 2 earned runs, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. His spring ERA is 3.95. Meanwhile, the Rockies used an opener in Jairo Diaz. Last but not least, Rangers over the Dodgers 3-1. Ross Stripling pitched for the Dodgers. He was charged with the loss. And for the win for the Rangers was Brett Martin. Sinsu Chu had a sac fly, RBI single, Rougned Odor, and sacrifice fly Elvis Andrus. Stripling 4 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, a walk, 4 strikeouts. His spring ERA is 1.74. Mike Minor started 3 1/3 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. His spring ERA is 5.4. There are games underway right now for baseball. And now to college basketball we go. I'm going to go through everything tonight with all the middle tier tournaments and lower tier tournaments from the NIT, CIT, CBI, and then I'll save the best for last when picking the first 4 for tonight. The CBI tonight at 9 o'clock, you have Cal State Northridge and Utah Valley. Utah Valley is a 12-point favorite. I'm going to take Utah Valley to win and cover. They're a very good team from the WAC led by Jake Toulson. In the CIT tonight, you have IUPUI and Marshall, and Cornell and Robert Morris, both games 7 o'clock. Marshall's an 8-point favorite. I think they'll win and cover. Robert Morris is favored by 1.5. I think they'll win and cover. NIT tonight, you have a bunch of them in the first round. Hofstra and NC State, Lipscomb and Davidson, Campbell and UNC Greensboro, St. Francis and Indiana on ESPN, Wright State and Clemson, San Diego and Memphis, South Dakota State and Texas, Loyola Chicago and Creighton, Arkansas and Providence, and Dayton and Colorado. The picks, I am definitely going to take a couple of the lower mid-conference teams to cover. I'm going to take NC State to win, and the spread isn't out yet, but if I had to guess the spread, I'd say NC State is favored in this game by maybe 8 or 9. I'd take Hofstra to cover and NC State to win. I like Lipscomb outright over Davidson. I'm going to take Campbell outright over UNC Greensboro. Don't feel super about it, but it's just a gut feeling. I'm going to take Indiana to win, but St. Francis, Pennsylvania to cover in the ESPN game tonight. Wright State, Clemson. I think Wright State's going to beat them outright. San Diego and Memphis. I like Memphis. They've shown a lot of poise and whatnot, and I think that they're going to try in this tournament. South Dakota State and Texas. Give me South Dakota State and Mike Daum there to win outright on the road. Loyola Chicago and Creighton. I like Loyola Chicago outright. Arkansas and Providence. Give me Providence. And then Dayton and Colorado. I like Colorado there. And what you've been waiting for, the first 4 of the NCAA tournament. 6:40. Trout TV. You have Fairleigh Dickinson and Prairie View. These two teams obviously are 16 seeds. They're in the West region. These two teams obviously are facing off for the rights to take on Gonzaga in the round of 64. These two have won a combined 19 straight games, and the team with the longer win streak is the Panthers, who will move on courtesy of Devontae Patterson. So the pick there is Prairie View A&M. Fairleigh Dickinson's a 2-point favorite, and I think Prairie View obviously wins outright. I also did these picks on the NCAA tournament podcast, but I'm going to go more in depth on my regular podcast because I was short on time and I wanted to discuss more of the bigger games on the NCAA tournament podcast rather than these not so great games. In the East region, 11 seeds, Belmont versus Temple, 9:10 True TV. It'll be Kevin Harlan, Reggie Miller, Dan Bonner, and Dana Jacobson on the call of those two games. This should be a fun game between two teams that probably belong here in Dayton. Two great coaches in Rick Byrd with the Bruins and Fran Dunphy with the Owls. The Owls have good guard play and play good defense, but I like the Bruins a little more, led by Dylan Windler, to move on to the round of 64 to take on the Maryland Terrapins. So the pick there is Belmont. They're a 3-point favorite, and I think they'll win and they'll cover as well. And now for my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. I did not do very good last night because somebody lost. I just can't think of who it was on the top of my head. And tonight we have more options because there's college basketball being played and teams that are big favorites, but there's some teams, as I mentioned, that I think that are overvalued, especially the higher seeded ones. So I'm probably just going to look into NBA and NHL again. So let's see. I made a mistake, actually. I think Campbell covers against UNC Greensboro. I did say wins outright, but I talked myself out of that one That's 9.5. Cornell, Robert Morris, I talked about. Hofstra, NC State. I said that NC State would be favored by 8 or 9. I think NC State wins, but Hofstra covers. Lipscomb, Davidson. Davidson's favored by 2. I think Lipscomb wins. Indiana's 18. I think St. Francis covers that. Clemson and Wright State. Clemson's favored by 13.5. I think Wright State will cover, but Clemson wins. San Diego, Memphis. Memphis is favored by 6.5. I think Memphis wins, but San Diego covers. Arkansas, Providence. Providence is laying 6. I think they win and cover. Loyola and Creighton. Creighton's favored by 8.5. I think Loyola beats them outright. Texas is favored by 8.5 over South Dakota State. I think South Dakota State wins outright. And then Dayton and Colorado. Colorado's favored by 4.5. I think they win and cover. So that's my official NIT picks. But I'm going to avoid college basketball because you never know. So let's go with the NBA. We'll go with Houston against Atlanta. I'm avoiding Golden State because you never know with the injuries and whatnot. Let's go with the Bucks, even though Giannis isn't there. But the more important thing is that LeBron's not there either. So the Bucks are a worthy pick, even though they don't have Giannis. But the key thing there is that LeBron's not playing either for the Lakers. We'll go with some hockey. I like Washington over the Devils. I like the Blues over the Oilers. I think the Blues bounce back. And I like Dallas over Florida. And I don't feel super about it, but I'm going to go with Calgary over Columbus. So that's 8-1. I'm going to wager $1 with a payout of $9.03. That's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping all the college basketball tournament games from CBI to NIT to CIT to the first 4. Look ahead to tomorrow's slate, NBA, NHL, spring training. Maybe I'll finally get my relief pitcher rankings done because I keep saying over and over how I want to get that done. But I just haven't had the chance to do so. Maybe I'll get that done. And obviously my best bets for tomorrow as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everybody.